Hey everyone, welcome to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and today we're going to be continuing talking about the Fantastic Four. If you want to know the casting details, stuff like that, you can check out the previous video that I did yesterday on that. But today I want to talk through three different theories about how Marvel might be using the 1960s for this. Obviously, the aesthetic of this logo here, as well as the cast announcement poster Valentine's thing, that has a very 60s vibe. I also gave a few other 60s references that were tossed out kind of with announcements for this. Check out that other video from yesterday for more on that. But I want to talk about, like I said, three different theories. Two of them that I've heard elsewhere, and one that is a little bit more my own. So the first one is that the Fantastic Four are from the past. They're from the 1960s, and because of ending up in the negative zone or something else, they get lost, get stuck, and then travel to the future. When they come back, it is the modern day MCU. There's one fairly big issue that I have with this is that if they're an active superhero team from before, why do people react the way that they do? The Fantastic Four are always very public in terms of being superheroes. So when Tony Stark announces that he's Iron Man, it would have been less of a hubbub. There probably wouldn't have been that secret Avengers, Shield, whatever you want to call it, team that Hank Pym kind of alludes to. Everything would have been public. But it's clearly that it's been hidden away from this point, and with no previous references to the Fantastic Four, I don't think that works super well. Now, the other option that I hear regularly is that they're from a different universe. So, in the multiverse, it might be even like directly timeline parallel to ours, like modern day, but that universe hasn't really advanced beyond the 60s because of some event not taking place, some choices that were made previously. The kind of advancement of technology has been slowed down, or the aesthetic of that technology has very much stayed in the 60s. And then throughout the movie, they end up on the main MCU timeline. This could be them getting lost. It could be, I like the idea for this one, an idea of an incursion. They're trying to save their universe, but in the end, they can't, and their universe is destroyed while they're away trying to save it. It's not so much that they let it die, like they don't run away from the problem, but in their attempt to save it, because through an incursion event occurring, they hop to a different universe, and when they try and go back, they can't. So it drops them in a kind of adjacent sort of universe in the multiverse, the main MCU timeline. But for me, there's one other option that I kind of like better. And this one actually could tie into something that was dropped in WandaVision, because it's always been something that I've kind of thought was interesting. There was a throwaway line in WandaVision when talking about S.W.O.R.D, how people were snapped. People were snapped, like astronauts from space were snapped, and they lost complete contact with teams. What if one of those teams was the Fantastic Four before they got powers? Because of the snap and then being dropped back into space, like the Hulk brings everybody back and he tries to do it safely to make sure, and he does it safely to make sure that everybody is safe. But that doesn't mean that they're necessarily back on Earth. They're out in, excuse me, they're, one second here. They're out in space, and now when they come back. They're on a different planet. They're stuck away from home, and they have to try and use technology that they find to come back. And part of that is kind of thinking about the wormhole technology, the jump gate technology in Marvel, that now they're doing something in a way that wasn't really meant to be done. Like, the jump gates aren't a super well known thing. So they jump. They jump, they get their powers because they're not properly shielded, because they're doing something that they don't really know what it should be, and they don't jump back to the normal Marvel Cinematic Universe. They jump back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the past. So one of the big crux of the stories, and how you can maybe keep a Doctor Doom, who's one of the main villains for the Fantastic Four, out of it, go with one of the lesser known ones, something like that, is by sending them in the past. They come back to the future, and they're greeted by Victor Von Doom, who's now something more than that. And I think that's a really interesting idea. Does this even need really to have a villain? Maybe some rumblings of Galactus. I guess you could have somebody on the Earth when they get back to Earth finally, set in the 60s. You could maybe have a more classic villain, a mole man, something like that. But because they're in the past, things are changing. Branch timeline has been created at that point. It doesn't affect the main MCU timeline. So when they jump back, everything that they've done kind of in the past has happened separate from everything else. Them being heroes, and now they're a new superhero team, superhero family that is introduced into the MCU. And for me, that's really the way I think that Marvel could have some fun with it. I think that either the second or the third option, I think, really do work, having them being from a different universe in the multiverse, or having them go from the future to the past to get that 60s setting, 60s aesthetic, and make it about them trying to get home. Why am I blanking on the show? Danger Will Robinson. Wow, I cannot think of the show, but very much in the feel of that show, where it's like you don't really know what's going on. They're trying to rebuild the spaceship to be able to get back home, and make the Fantastic Four about that. And I think that's enough of a plot. And even start a little bit further in. Even start at the point where potentially they have kids, because or at least one. If they have Franklin, he's a mutant. He doesn't need cosmic radiation to get his powers. And Valeria, she's a super genius. Doesn't necessarily need anything to give her powers. She's just incredibly smart. That is her power. Make it about them trying to get home to their kids. I think, it would just be a fantastic story, which is appropriate for the Fantastic Four. So let me know your thoughts on that. Does this make sense to you? Which of these three options for setting in the past sounds the best? Let me know that down in the comment section below. And if you enjoy this video content, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you want to check out more, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this on 10 Minute Marvel podcast, you can check that out wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. A few links down in the description below. But with that, I'll see you next time.